Hey Frag fam, Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So recently I've been trying to dive more into different houses or broaden my horizons, I guess you could say. So recently I actually ended up picking up samples from the house of Etat Libre d'Orange, and I haven't even tried them yet. I decided why not, let's make a video out of this, do my first impressions on all these fragrances. I actually have 5 fragrances here, although I got 6 samples. I've only tried Secretions Magnifique, which we all know that's kind of like a novelty fragrance, not something that I think most people would seriously consider wearing. And I do have Exit the King. I recently got that in a swap, but besides those 2 fragrances, I have 0 experience with the house. So that's what we're gonna be doing here today. And if you guys are interested to hear about my first impressions on some of these fragrances from the house of Etat Libre d'Orange, please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright, welcome back. So like I said in the intro, we're talking about the house of Etat Libre d'Orange. We're going to be doing my first impressions on 5 fragrances from the house. I actually have samples here, and they actually come in these little boxes, which is really cool. So here's the first one. This is called, oh my gosh, this is such a long name. I'm not even going to say it. It has Hermann in the name, okay? The next one right here, let's get that. This is Eau de Protection, and I'm going to pronounce these wrong because all of these names are in French, which I do not speak. The next one is right here. This is Fat Electrician, which I've heard of that one before actually. We have this one right here. This is called Putain des Palaces. Guys, I'm horrible at saying these names, I'm sorry. And then the last one, it's right here. This is called Archives 69. So I have no idea what any of these fragrances are about. I haven't even looked at the notes yet. I just chose these because maybe they sounded interesting and that's what we're rolling with. So I'm gonna get the atomizers out of the boxes and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the little atomizers out of their boxes and here's what they look like. I wasn't sure, but they actually do have the name of the fragrances on here, and I don't know if we're gonna even be able to get that close enough for you to read where it's gonna be in focus. Either way, this is the one that has Hermann in it because this name is incredibly long and all in French, so I'm gonna butcher it, but this is actually what we're gonna be starting with right here. I also did pull up the note breakdown just now. Like I said, I hadn't looked into the notes previously. I just kind of asked for these random samples and that's what I got. So this one has notes of geosmin, which I think is like wet earth kind of a smell. It's synthetic. Then you have pepperwood, a peppery wood, you know, go figure. Ambroxan, you have rose in here, patchouli, Patelia, and then island musk. So a lot of interesting notes that I've never really seen blended together. So I don't really know what this one's supposed to smell like at all, but here we go. I do have actual tester strips this time, and we are gonna see how this smells. So, okay, there we go. It's like a squirt gun. It's not actually spraying it, but that's fine. So I'm just gonna let this sit for a second. Wow, this is really interesting. So there is definitely a floral aspect here, but it's not sweet and jammy or heavy. Like it's almost like a cold, flowery smell. You know, usually when I smell rose or any kind of floral, it's almost warm in a way. I just kind of envision like brighter colors, and here it's coming across a lot colder. I'm definitely kind of getting like a soil tincture and like kind of like an earthy smell, but not like how like vetiver comes across earthy sometimes. This seems a lot more photorealistic, like true to how like it might smell after it rains and it's like, you know, there's dirt outside and stuff. There is kind of a spiciness here too. There are no spices listed, but I'm assuming that's coming from the pepperwood. And there is ambroxan listed, which I'm not really smelling that per se here. Maybe that's just a longevity booster here in this case and not so much there to actually contribute to the scent itself. So to me, this is like a sweet, kind of cooling, floral, kind of earthy, wet smell. A little bit woody as well. I can almost envision being in the woods, like it just rained and, you know, of course you got trees around you, so you kind of get this woody green smell. You have the damp earth beneath you, which is, you know, you can smell that. And then there's like flowers growing around you or like rose bushes and stuff. So this seems honestly pretty transportive and very artistic smelling. And actually is kind of pleasant. I could see myself wearing this. It definitely isn't like super mass appealing, you know, something that's probably gonna get you a lot of compliments, but it does smell really nice. And honestly, I don't have super high hopes for loving all of these just because of I know how this house is with their fragrances. They're more artistic. And like I said earlier, they're kind of like far out, bombacious style fragrances. This is really nice though, and I do like this quite a bit. I think the florals here are working really nicely. And I talk about this a lot Rose is not a note that I'm absolutely in love with. It really has to be done correctly. And here it is working beautifully with this, the geosmin, or however you say it, that note, and then the pepperwood. So this, like I said, it smells like a walk in the woods. Really, really nice. Okay, so we're on to the next one, and it is right here. Again, you guys probably won't be able to read it because it is really small, but this is Putain des Palaces. And I pulled up the note breakdown for this one. I think that's what I'm gonna be doing with all of these. So it doesn't list any top, mid, or base notes. It just has the note breakdown as powdery notes, violet, leather, musk, amber, rose, ginger, mandarin orange, and then lily of the valley. So this sounds like it might be kind of makeup-y almost in a way. Powdery notes, you get a lot of florals in here, and then some resins. So let's see. I sprayed that off camera, I apologize, but this one actually did spray pretty nicely. It put out a nice mist. So here we go. Yeah, now this smells familiar, and I always say this. Every time something smells familiar to me, it like blanks. Like I just draw a blank on it. I can't always think of what it is. So this is definitely accurate to say powdery notes. There is a very present powderiness. Man, say that 5 times fast. But yeah, so the first thing, it's like this powderiness. There is kind of a floral tinge here, but I wouldn't call this like a super floral fragrance per se. I'm almost getting like the smell of like baby powder, but it's a little bit sweeter. And you know, I'm not really getting much of like the amber or the mandarin orange. This is to me coming across, yeah, very powdery, kind of lightly floral with like a sweetness that I guess maybe that's coming from the mandarin orange or like the ginger. You know, this, I would say for me, this is not as good as the last one. The last one I could kind of see myself wearing. Not because this smells bad, but this seems very niche and novelty. Kind of hard for something to use as like a daily driver. But that's what's really cool about this house, to my understanding, is, you know, their artistic approach to fragrances. And I do really like that. I give them props for that. And honestly, I mean, I know that fragrance is technically androgynous, you know, even though there are pour femme and pour homme fragrances, I think in general, anybody can wear what they want, but traditionally this smells a lot more feminine. So as a traditional feminine smelling fragrance, that's what this is. And probably not something I would gravitate towards quite as much, but it still is pleasant. I'm not like disgusted by it or put off by it by any means, but yeah, it's just like a powdery, it has kind of this breezy effect to it in a way. Maybe that's coming from the violet, a little bit sweet, and like, you know, that sweetness could be coming from the fruity notes, I guess, or the amber. But I'm not getting like a prominent in my face, like fruitiness or like a traditional resinous quality from this. Yeah, it smells nice, but not the best thing I've ever smelled by any means. Okay, so we're on to the third fragrance. It is this one right here. This is Fat Electrician. And this is the one that, at least to me, is the most well-known of all of these. I've heard of it before, I think probably from their Facebook ads and whatnot. And this actually is a really interesting note breakdown. So you have vetiver, whipped cream, marron glaze, which is like a glazed chestnut. I looked into it. You also have olive leaf, vanilla, myrrh, and then apopanax. So this sounds like it could almost lean gourmand in a way, but it's got some of these kind of green, earthy notes as well coming from the vetiver, I'm assuming. So we're gonna have to wait and see. Here we go. Yeah. Honestly, the first thing I'm smelling is like that whipped cream accord or note, whatever they're using to create that. It is sweet and it is creamy, but it's kind of got this airy nature to it. There's definitely like an earthiness here, kind of a grassiness that is standing out as vetiver to me. It's not the earthiest or like the dirtiest vetiver I've ever smelled. It's kind of leaning a little bit more towards that green, kind of grassy side of vetiver. You know, this is honestly kind of fleeting just off the piece of paper. Like I can smell it, but it's kind of eluding my nose. It almost feels like it's going out and away from me. Yeah, there's definitely like an underlying sweetness here. Kind of that creamy accord that I was talking about. I'm really not getting much of like a chestnut accord. I think if it's there, it's just kind of down underneath the vetiver and then that whipped cream accord. And then it says there's vanilla in here. And maybe that's where I'm getting that sweetness from. I'm not getting too much of a resinous quality from here either. So honestly, this isn't really that strong, and I think that's why I'm not maybe getting quite as much stuff. I did spray it, you know, twice, just like the other ones, but this seems like it's more of a fleeting fragrance that's just kind of eluding me more. But from what I'm actually able to pick up, this does smell really nice. I think of the three that I've tried so far. The first one I tried, Hermann, is probably my favorite. And this is probably second. And I feel like I would like this better if I could actually smell it better, if it was louder. But from what I'm picking up, like I said, this is really nice. This is a really interesting take on vetiver. I've never smelled anything that's doing what this vetiver fragrance does. Okay, so we're on to the fourth fragrance now. This one is right here. This is Eau de Protection. And I looked up the note breakdown. This has bitter orange, ginger, black pepper as the top notes. Mid notes are Turkish rose, absolute, orper, jasmine, and then heliotrope. And then base notes are tonka bean, absolute, benzoin, orper, and patchouli orper. I do not know what orper is at all. If you guys know, please let me know down in the comments. Never heard of that ever. But this sounds like it'll be kind of, okay, floral, fruity with some like sweeter kind of powdery notes. Oh, whoa. Wow. This is, I think it's coming from the black pepper, but this is almost tickling my nose. Like it's giving me almost the effect of like wanting to sneeze in a way. There is kind of a like, it says there's bitter orange in here. I'm getting almost like an orange rind, you know, how it's kind of that oily, almost bitter, but a little bit of this tartness as well that you get from the rind. And it says it's bitter orange, so that seems pretty accurate. There's definitely like a floral, rosy undertone coming from here. And to me, this is a little bit on that jammier side of rose, which usually you see that with Turkish rose, so I'm not surprised. And that's honestly the type of rose or the style of rose I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like those heavy, jammy florals. I usually like them to be a little bit lighter and brighter. I am getting kind of a sweet powderiness in here as well. Tonka bean can come across powdery. Of course, tonka bean is very sweet. And maybe that is coming, was there like myrrh in here? There's benzoin. Benzoin is a resin, which usually, to me, at least my experience, has this kind of effervescence. It's almost like sparkly in a way. It's not quite as deep, powdery, and resinous as something like myrrh, but you can see benzoin kind of behave that way as well with like a powdery nature. And that's kind of what I'm getting here. I think that rose and then the benzoin are working together to kind of give that powderiness, but also that like jammy smell as well. And that honestly, at this point now, I think I'm getting more of that rose than anything else. So this is a very loud, kind of jammy rose. And there is kind of like that bitter orange rind smell there still. And I've lost that like pepperiness that I got right in the opening, that initial blast where it was almost tickling my nose. I'm not really getting much of that anymore. So honestly, this is probably my least favorite just because it's that jammy style of rose, which I said I'm not a fan of. Does it smell bad? No, actually this smells really nice. And this smells like something that if you enjoy this style, you could use this as a daily driver. I think that this is decidedly feminine just based on the traditional notion of a feminine fragrance. Like I said earlier, of course, everything is androgynous in my opinion. But if you're looking for a traditionally feminine fragrance, this seems to be leaning more towards that side. And I could actually see this as being a really nice kind of sweet, fruity, floral fragrance for a woman that likes that style of fragrance. Or if you're a guy and you like that style of fragrance, you know, absolutely go for it. This just isn't quite up my style, but I can objectively say that this is a really nice fragrance and it does smell really nice. Okay, so we're finally on to the last fragrance, and it is this one right here. This is Archives 69. And then the note breakdown here actually looks really interesting to me. So you have top notes of pink pepper, paprika, and mandarin orange. Mid notes are plum, incense, and then orchid. Then you have base notes of camphor, benzoin, musk, and patchouli. And like I said, this is a very interesting note breakdown for my personal taste. Probably the most interesting of everything I've tried today. I love pink pepper, and I love spices in general. Pink pepper is kind of a nice creamy spice. You get mandarin orange, which is my favorite orange note, and one of my favorite citrus notes along with grapefruit. And then plum. I usually like plum in fragrances. Plum Japonais from Tom Ford is one of my favorite private blends. It's such a well done fragrance, and the plum in there is very photorealistic. Incense, benzoin, I love those as well. So this sounds the most promising to me. We'll have to wait and see. Here we go. Wow, man, this is really interesting. So I'm getting kind of this tickling effect, almost like I did with the last one with the pink pepper, or with the black pepper in that one. Here, I'm getting a lot more of a spicy quality. Not so much a creaminess, so I don't think the pink pepper is really gonna be a very creamy pink pepper in this fragrance. I think maybe it's because it's combined with the paprika here. There is kind of a smokiness here as well, which I would definitely attribute to the incense. I mean, that would make the most sense. And I'm honestly not getting as much fruit here as I expected. I'm actually getting the orchid they listed. Orchid, a very bright, kind of vibrant floral note. And that's really standing out here to me. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what these other notes could be in here that I'm smelling. I've never smelled camphor before, I do not believe. And if I have, I just don't know what it smells like, so I can't really talk to that. But I'm not really getting as much of the fruitiness as I expected. I was kind of anticipating this being a little bit sweet because plum is a very sweet fruit note. Mandarin orange is a very sweet citrusy note. I was kind of expecting to get a little bit more sweetness. Of course, there's benzoin in here too, a resin that is usually very sweet. I'm not getting much of that. This to me is coming across firstly spicy, secondly kind of smoky, and then thirdly I'm kind of getting this floral note which is coming from that orchid. I'm not really getting much else in here. And I'm honestly not liking this as much as I was hoping just based on looking at the note breakdown. Yeah, that's kind of a letdown. It's okay. I think if I have to go off of my favorite today, with either just Fat Electrician or the Hermann fragrance, just based on the scent. Like I said, Fat Electrician was really fleeting to my nose, was hard to pick out, but what I could pick out smelled really nice. If it was stronger, maybe I would like it a lot more. So it's either gonna be that one or the Hermann fragrance. So these were honestly really interesting. I've not smelled a house with this style of fragrances where they're just all out there and they're all different from one another. It's not like they all smell similar with these changes. They really do all smell standalone and they're very artistic. So that's the really cool thing with this house. I don't know if I would ever get a full bottle of any of these, but it was really cool to try these out. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as well. Well, there you guys go. That was my first impressions of 5 fragrances from the house of Etat Libre d'Orange. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, or if you found it entertaining or helpful, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.